Good afternoon and welcome to the Beginnings of Greatness. Do we have an overall shot at all during this show? Okay. Well, then there's no way to surprise you except to just tell you that my former show partner, Matt Rhodes, is dead. He died of a horrible car accident. He wasn't driving the car, ironically. He was run over by an ice cream truck. What's going on? You guys are being very disrespectful. I'm trying to talk about my dead show partner, and you guys are just throwing stuff around. Okay, well, I guess that was worthwhile. Let's show that shot so you can verify that he's dead. He's not here. I figure let's move on. It's time to move on. No need dwelling on the past. And I thought I would try something new today since Matt's dead. And I would just do some drawing and just talk about whatever's on my mind, because a lot of people have been writing in to our show and saying, Joey, we really enjoy your camaraderie between you and Matt, but more than that, we just want to know what you're thinking on various topics. And so today marks a new day. It's the beginning of you knowing what's going on up here. So let's cut to my screen here. This is something that I've been playing around with for the past couple of weeks. I've had this sitting up here doing absolutely nothing because Matt is so damn distracting. He just fills my head with nonsense and I can't concentrate. But hopefully today I can do something about that. So this is, what just happened? I just made my palette black. Okay. This is a comic that I'm playing around with. I want to draw comic strips. I've always wanted to draw comic strips, and so I got this art tablet recently. It's called the Wacom Cintiq Companion. And if you're an artist out there and you want to get into the digital arts and you can afford a Cintiq Companion, this is the tablet that you need to get. I have enjoyed it thoroughly. It has allowed me to begin creating the comic that I've been planning for a couple of years. I've created 4 pages of this, and this right here, although it's the page I'm working on, it is the first page. I decided to redo this first page. Let me pull up the original first page here so that we can make a comparison here. So there we go. This is the first page. We begin with a view of the house, and then we go into the house with one of the children who's a main character of this story. And then we show one of the fathers, who's not a main character, but a character. And then we show another kid, which is another main character of the story. The working names of these kids are, well, I haven't decided whether this, actually I haven't decided on any name yet, but in the script here it says this girl right here calls him Ivan. I was actually thinking about Maxwell. My son likes Maxwell, so I may change that to Maxwell. And her name is, the girl upstairs, her name is Tiq, T-I-Q, which I don't know how I came up with that name, but I just thought it sounded nice. So those may be the permanent names, I don't know. This is a cat. It's one of their cats. I don't really know whose cat it is yet. But in any case, I decided to redraw this page because I originally drew this page on my iPad. And I was using, I think it started out in brushes. And it didn't quite pan out there, so I redrew it in Procreate. If you have an iPad and you want to do art on your iPad, Procreate is the best application to work on. You can do high resolution drawings and paintings, and it's like, I think, $1.99 or $4.99. It's an amazing application. But The problem with any application on the iPad is, at least to date, you're not able to do anything technical, like measurements. You're not able to say, well, I want, for instance, my pages are 11 inches by 17 inches, plus crop marks and bleeds. That's something that you want to think about when you're printing a comic strip. If you plan on printing it, is the dimensions where you can stop drawing, where you can start drawing, and understanding bleeds and crop marks are an important part of that. And you can't do that with Procreate. So I imported this from Procreate into this application, which is called Manga Studio. And the dimensions and the way that it fits into an 11 by 17 canvas are all wrong. If you compare it to this page, for example, you can see how much tighter this page fits in. So you might see some similarities if you compare this page with this page. So this is the old first page, and this is the new first page. So the girl is going to be right in this area right here. I don't know if you guys can see my mouse moving. Well, you certainly can't see it now, but the girl is going to be right somewhere right here, somewhere right up in there. And then the boy is going to be somewhere right in here. I took a different approach to drawing this page this time because I started noticing how incredibly long it was taking me to draw backgrounds. This panel right here is almost nothing but a background. This right here is nothing but a background. This right here is nothing but a background. And it took a long time to draw these things. There are other elements in this composition, such as, let me go to that third panel and pull up a couple of things here. So, let's see here. This composition has about 100 layers in it, so let me see if I can pull up the right ones. Okay, I think I know what's going on. Possibly. Here we go. All right, so if I turn off, let me do a quick grouping task here. It'll be much easier to see. Just pull those elements in, and now let's hide them. And let's bring the opacity of that up. You cut to full screen. There we go. So this is the original drawing. It's not the sketch. This drawing took a long time to do. There's a lot of elements that are hard to see here with the low detail, but these frames have a lot of detail in them. These frames are actually two-layer glass panes with pegs to separate them, and the paper mounted to the top surface. I know it's a lot of thinking to go through for a single panel of this comic strip, but I didn't want a normal-looking room, so I wanted to put some unusual things in there. And this is nothing but a bookshelf full of junk. This right here is a synthesizer. This is just some sort of lock box or some sort of just old-fashioned type box. This is some towels laying over the shelf. Books up here. That might look like a boom box, but this isn't the 1980s, so it's just a speaker with a stop crew. They're saying things that aren't right. This is a clean show. So listen, Matt's dead, and this is a new era. This show is going to be clean. We're not going to be making nasty innuendos. And my crew, for some reason, I think that they're still holding on to the memory of Matt, and they're making crude jokes at me as I'm doing this, and that's not right. Number one, it's disrespectful to the dead, and number two, you're ruining my new show. All right, let's cut back to that here. No, make it full screen. All right, thank you. So, anyways, you'll notice that that a lot of those elements don't show up in this final composition here. Okay. The reason for that is I decided that with the amount of time that I'm spending drawing these backgrounds, I should rethink how I draw them. So you notice the girl isn't here, the boy isn't here, and a lot of the elements in the original drawing aren't here. That's because I wanted to do it procedurally so that I could turn off certain elements and change them over time. So maybe I want to reuse this panel in the future. I might want to reuse it for another panel several pages down or several volumes down. So why not have what I drew in a way that's reusable so that the characters are not attached to the drawing, the shelves that I drew are not attached to the drawing. Maybe later on somehow this room gets renovated or a character's in a different position. Then I have this drawing right here to build on top of, and I don't have to do all that work over again. So now that I've drawn this, I'm going to go in and I'm going to draw the bookshelves in and the frames in, but I'm not going to draw the boy. And then I'll have that composition locked in so that if ever I want this perspective again, or I just want to save time and just reuse this perspective, then I can put the characters doing something else. Same with this right here. Let's go ahead and show that full screen. Thank you. So this is a nice perspective, and it took a long time to draw this, and I don't want my comic strip to take months to draw. I don't want. It's taken months just to draw these 4 pages. I don't want that to happen all the time. I want to get faster at what I'm doing, and I want to develop more efficient techniques. So, in animation, what they'll often do is they'll draw the background, and the background will be still. It will not be animated at all, and they'll animate the characters on top of that background. And they do that for the very same reason that I'm doing here, and that is that it takes forever to draw these backgrounds. You don't want to be drawing 30 of them per second, or 24, which is the speed of cinematography film. You just want to draw it once because it's not going to change. And if it does at all, you can change the elements that do change on that background. You can make them a separate layer. So that's what we're doing here, and that's what I'm doing. Let me show you the top elements. The final elements of this frame. They're not quite, again, I'm not ready to draw them. But let's see here. So let's see. Give me just a moment to dig through this composition here and pull some of these things out. All right, that's our middle panel. All right, so let me turn that off, pull the opacity of this up, and there is this composition a little bit further along. Actually, I need to turn some other elements on in here. There we go. So here's another perspective of the same room. Here's the same frames from a different angle. It's the bookshelves. Here's a chair that you don't see at the other angle because it's out of view. A couple of car toys on the ground. A rocket ship with an astronaut. I really love detail, and I love spending the time drawing the detail, but after I'm done, I'm tired. And I don't want to do it again. Now, I may redraw the detail of this room one day, but if I can reuse these assets in any way, I want to do that. And it doesn't take that much more time to draw it this way. I'm going to go in maybe during this show and start drawing these elements into the main composition, building them on top of the background that I just drew so that later I can go and quickly remove them and draw something else if I want to. But I think for me, when I read comic strips and I enjoy the artwork and I enjoy the story, it's the little details that inspire me and make me interested in the story. Those are my favorite comic strips, so that's what I'm trying to accomplish here. Let me turn that off now. Guys, do I have a gentle voice like Bob Ross? I'm really working on making my voice gentle. Should I talk about happy trees? There are some trees in this drawing. Maybe I should talk about happy trees. Okay, let's turn that off. Turn the final back on. Let's go back up into this top composition here. You know, I'm really upset about some equipment that I bought a couple of weeks ago. This is a high resolution screen. It's 1960 by 1080. It's exactly HD. Okay, so for anybody that knows about high definition television, HD and HDMI go hand in hand. I have a port on this computer that is a display port out, and a very common adapter that you can buy for mini display port outs, which is what this is a mini display port to HDMI connector. And our mixer here has an HDMI in. So I figured, hey, this is simple. I'll just buy a connector, and I will I'll buy a connector that converts a mini display port to HDMI, get an HDMI cord, plug it into our mixer, and I'll be able to operate in high definition, and you guys will still be able to see a picture. But no, I plugged in the converter that I bought, the adapter. It doesn't work on this. I tried it on my Mac. It works just fine. So I'm going to have to call Wacom and give them a piece of my mind, because that's what I do when I get upset. I give people pieces of my mind. I'm slowly losing my mind. All right, let's see here. Let me get my bearings. Got a ton of layers on this page. Okay, here's our mailman. He appears on some other pages. He's delivering a package to our kids. I'm going to start working on coloring him in today. Mega Studio has a really great feature that I love. It's called a reference layer. And the problem that it solves is that in the past in these art applications, if you wanted to use a fill tool, you had to fill on the same layer. And what a fill tool does is it finds the lines on the layer that you're coloring, and you basically drop a bucket of quote-unquote paint into that shape, and the color fills out to the lines, and then it stops. But if you want to paint or design a comic strip efficiently, you really want your colors to be on a separate layer than your lines, so that if you don't quite like a color that you chose or whatever, you can, for example, if I were to, let's just pretend that I'm painting here, which I will be in just a moment. If I were to start filling in color here, and then I were to decide, well, I don't like that, but let's say I was 30 steps down the road, and I'd already done a bunch of stuff on top of it, and undoing would take forever. Like you can hit undo, but that takes forever. Well, since it's on a separate layer, all I have to do is grab my eraser, make my eraser big, and I can erase that without erasing my lines. So that's why you want your colors on a separate layer. But your programs of the past, and even some of your present programs, I don't think even Photoshop allows you to have a reference layer. And I may be wrong about that. But you had to fill on the same layer. So for example, if I were to go to the same layer and fill, and then I were to decide the same thing, well, I don't like that, and then I were to erase, it erases my lines as well. So that's what's so great about having a reference layer. So I can have a different layer that I splash my colors into, but the program understands that I need to use another layer as reference for the lines for its guidelines of where the colors stop. Just makes it very quick for putting in colors. I'm actually going to pull up a screenshot of my older composition because I'm fairly fond of the colors there, and I matched colors on other pages. I matched colors to this right here, so I want to keep it consistent. So I'm got a little program called Skitch. If you ever need to take screenshots on your computer, whether you're on Windows or Mac, if you want an efficient program for taking screenshots, Skitch is great for that. So it's free. It's made by Evernote, and you just download it and install it. It doesn't cost a thing. You just hit screen snap, and then you tell it the area that you want to capture. And looks like it's having trouble with my malformed screen here because I had to make because I don't have that HDMI cable, I have to make my monitor smaller than it's supposed to be. So I think it's having some alignment issues, but that's okay. It doesn't have to be perfect. I just need a reference here. So let's paste that into this panel and pull that down. There we go. Now I can kind of sample those colors. So I'm going to start again with my bucket. Bucket fill. Every good art program has a bucket fill. Bucket fill used to be a very unprofessional way of coloring because it wasn't perfect. You have these lines they have sort of what looks like a fuzz. It's actually called anti-aliasing, and it makes lines look smooth when you zoom out. But the problem is that your older applications couldn't understand that, and they wouldn't fill naturally into that anti-aliasing. But the bucket fill has gotten more intelligent over the years, and now it's very useful. It fills it in pretty naturally. There's a lot of sliders that you can use to adjust threshold. Threshold is part of the settings that tell the bucket how to detect anti-aliasing. Somebody texted me earlier. Let me see if that's important. No, that's not the reason why, Sean. My studio director is trying to preach to me about technical stuff while I'm doing a show. Well, you know what? If that's the case, then fix it. Fix it next show. Okay, Sean's going to fix it. We'll have a high definition display next show. And we'll be doing it next show because Matt is dead. I forgot to explain, the real tragic part about Matt's death is that the vehicle that ran over him wasn't moving. It wasn't moving at all. Matt had too much to drink, and most people you want to say don't drink and drive, but with Matt you want to say don't drink and walk. And he walked straight under an idle car. It wasn't even on. Crammed himself right under the tire. Sad. It's a really, really tragic story. I would cry, but I wasn't that close to him. Okay, let's see here. So I got a little eyedropper tool here. The great thing about any Wacom tablet that you get, their product line of graphics tablets range from $50 to $3,000. And even their $50 tablets come with all kinds of great features. This pen has two buttons on it, plus an eraser and a drawing tip. So the moment I flip this pen, my application immediately knows that I want to erase. I don't have to switch tools. I just flip my pen, and I'm drawing. And these two buttons here do whatever I want them to do. In this case, I've assigned them to, when I click the back button here, it goes to an eyedropper on my canvas, so then I can sample a color real quick, and then I can just go to filling with that color. Oh, that overflowed a little bit. That's okay. I can erase that in a moment. Uh-oh, that's going to go out of control. So what's happening here is this mail truck, although it looks like we have a closed shape here, it's not closed. So I have two options because that bucket fill is running outside of the tire. I can either go in here and I can paint a little line, wrong layer, paint a little line right here, and then when I go and fill, it should stop at that line. Or I can have multiple reference layers. So I can take this layer and also I can find my other outline layer just by turning a few layers off and on to see what happens. I'll find it in just a moment. Oh, maybe not. Let's see here. You know what? I think it's buried in this folder. There we go. So now I just put a check mark by that and say reference layer, and now I have now I should have two reference layers, which is the layer with this line and the layer with these lines. And now when I fill, it should just fill in. The other one worked better because it didn't run into that line. But I can just go in there and pretty easily. Oops. Let me resize that brush. There we go. Just pretty easily erase that portion of the line. And we'll do the same over here. And we'll draw some happy tires. These tires are very happy. I always want to draw happy tires. Don't you see their smile? You know what? A better tool for this is going to be a lasso marquee or polygon marquee. I'll just draw a line across there, and then we will clear that. There we go. That's close enough. By the time it gets to viewable size, any imperfections there aren't going to make much of a difference. Well, I filled my tires in with the wrong color. So that's useful. I will have to undo all that. I could fill right over the top of them, but once you fill in a color, if you try to go over the top of it, it's slightly less perfect. So we'll go in and do that again. Oh no. Oh, so I have to assign my reference layers all over again. That's okay. Where are you, outlines? There you are. There we go. And that's pretty much black, so I'm not going to worry about how it runs over the lines there. But I will grab my pen, fill in that little dot there, and erase this tar bleeding onto my road. You know, my crew is surprisingly well behaved today. It makes me wonder if Matt hasn't been the problem this whole time. Maybe it's for the best that he died. What are you playing? They just didn't like that I was saying they were well behaved. God, talk about an immature bunch. Don't play background music to my drawing. Just let it be quiet, you know? I don't need background music. Stop. turn that music off. Well, so much for that. So much for that theory. You know, they used to be way even more well-behaved than they were. Like before Matt got here, our crew was very, very wild. I couldn't control them at all. We couldn't even put together a show. But when Matt got here, he had a handgun. It was a semi-automatic handgun, and he would just threaten them with a handgun. And that's what we would always before our show, Matt would just point the handgun at them and say, you don't want me to shoot you, right? And they would say, no, we don't want to be shot. And he would say, well, then don't mess with our show. And that was, you know, what you see on T-Bog is the best that we could get out of our crew. He would always call them B. Everybody he would call B. And they would ask why he was calling them B, and he would say, I don't really know. I just heard some tough guys say that one time. And then they would ask him why there was a red tip on the end of his handgun. And he would explain it was because he got it from the dollar store. It was good times, good memories. Good memories. So I'm going to pull up another page here because I've got a little more detail on the mailman than I do on the original panel. The original panel just has him as a profile. I have a little more detail on him now, so I'm going to pull up a page that I drew where I have more detail on the postman. I'm going to take a screenshot of that so that I can reference some of the color on him. He's all in shadow there. Well, he's in shadow on both, so let's just grab this one. It'll be fine. It will be fine. Where's Skitch? Please stop. Please stop the music. We just got a comment from a viewer who says, please stop the music. So crew, if you're not going to listen to me, at least listen to the viewers. This isn't a comedy anymore, guys. This is not a funny show. It's supposed to be serious. Where's my original page? There it is. Okay. All right, there's our mailman. Let's color him in. All right. I think my crew's worried that my show's too boring as is. Yeah, that's Sean, it's not your business. This is my show. We've had far more boring shows on this network than this, so lay off. Oh, man. You know, I enjoy drawing. There's a lot of people that think it's boring. And you know what? I have some choice words for those people. Sean. All right. Well, his skin is all shaded. Let's go back and grab another screenshot on a totally different page, number 4. There we go. All right. One more time. There we go. All right, I just want that color right there, unshaded flesh color. So, crew, if Matt was watching this show right now, what do you think that Matt is thinking up in heaven right now? Any thoughts on what Matt is thinking in heaven? That's what he's thinking? Okay. Super funny, guys. Super duper funny. All right. This is really rough right now, but it saves a lot of time just to fill in a few rough colors and then go back and clean it up rather than doing the whole thing with a brush. I colored a whole page just with a pen one time. I didn't use the fill tool at all, and it took forever. How many viewers do we have right now, guys? -2? That's not good. I'll have to try to be more entertaining. For those of you that don't know anything about painting or drawing digitally, these graphics tablets are amazing. They have pressure sensitivity, so that go ahead and show that full screen. So that full screen, there we go. So that the width of my pen stroke varies by how hard I'm pressing. It's super useful in doing line work, but it's also great when you're coloring because you can get in small areas just by doing a light brush stroke, or you can cover a lot of ground real quickly by pressing a little bit harder. They also have pressure-sensitive pins for the iPad. I really enjoyed drawing on the iPad while that's all I had. I like this a little bit better, but if you want to do some digital painting and you have an iPad, that's an easy and reasonably inexpensive way to get into it. You can get a pressure-sensitive stylus for somewhere between $50 and $100, and then you can draw directly on your screen. You can get a graphics tablet from Cintiq for about $50, but you won't be able to draw on your screen, and that's very useful to be able to do that. I don't know how I got that color. Let's try that again. There we go. Okay. You having a hard time dealing with the silence, Sean?
And that's with the whole color sky.
What are you playing?
Off pike.
Oh dear. These guys are trying to invoke the memory of my former show partner. Matt will be back next week. He didn't really die. But he does have a knack for walking underneath car tires. Matt has gone on vacation, I think, to Virginia. Correct, guys? Is that right? Oh, well, that's not where he went then. Went to someplace special. My crew's telling me it's supposed to be a surprise, but nobody to whom this will be a surprise is watching this show, especially if I have -2 viewers. That's a sensible conclusion, right? All right. We're making good progress, guys. This has been a really productive use of time. I think it has been. My crew is not so sold on the idea. Glad you guys could join me for this special time. The crew's laughing at me. I'm gonna draw a happy label. Stop it. This is what happens when your crew is made up entirely of volunteers. I hope that's royalty-free music. Get me thrown off the air. Are you at least playing that quiet enough to where they can hear me talk? Okay. I really would prefer that you didn't play it. But at least my people can hear me talk. I haven't decided on the color of these labels yet, so I'm just experimenting with the right color for these labels. That's not bad. There we go. And pick a dirty off-white for the headlight. I don't know. Let's make it a little bit darker than that. Do what? You thought marker lights were yellow. That's a headlight. This is a blinker. My crew is questioning my decisions. They're saying I should have made this yellow. This is a blinker, and these are labels. I think I chose the right color. I don't know why I didn't draw a blinker here. Definitely should have. Let's do that now. Something like... right size? Close enough. Let's grab that color there. Oops, wrong layer. Let's try that again. Oops, somehow I guess I turned my computer off with my finger. Don't show my password. All right. Let's see here. Now, what I've just done is called flatting. Why is that funny? They're laughing at me. This is called flatting. They think that's funny. This is a step in drawing comic strips. Its official name is flatting. Every time I say it, Sean thinks it's hilarious. Why is that hilarious? So the reason why it's called flatting is because you're just picking colors, you're disregarding shade or highlight, and you're picking some color in the middle that you think that the objects that you're coloring might be if they were in sort of a medium light, not too bright, not too dark. So you pick your flat color, you fill in your shapes with flat color, and then you go back later and you add tinting. You know, you darken parts of it, you lighten parts of it to indicate light source. And so that's what we're going to do now. I haven't been super specific with the light source on this. It's a little bit ambiguous. I did it sort of that way on purpose because I wanted certain effects. I wanted a little bit of yellow coming in on the right side of the sky here, but I also wanted the shadows to indicate some very bright sunlight coming possibly directly or slightly above into the windows. So that's why the shadow on here is the way that it is. So I'm going to try to do that same thing on this mailman here. But we're out of time. Got 2 minutes left in the show, so I'm not going to go into that stage. I think Matt will be back next week, so the show won't be quite as entertaining next week as it was today. But we'll see you next week. Hopefully our crew will be a little more cooperative then. Bye-bye.